This is the desk setup that I've been living with for the past 3 years. And let's just say, it's not the most organized working environment. And with negative cable management, not enough room even for my mouse, and my speakers being propped up on my design books from college, this is not a good way of living. And with this workspace also being part of my girlfriend and I's tiny apartment living room, it is admittedly a bit of an eyesore. So today, I'm going to design and create the ultimate desk that hopefully makes me more creative and productive. So in order to make a desk that helps me be more productive, I've created a list of things that are absolutely non-negotiable. The most important feature is that I want this desk to be able to hide my entire computer setup, monitor, speakers, microphone, at the press of a button, so it can turn the desk into a flat surface for other activities. Number 2, I want all of my recording equipment and audio hardware to be permanently set up, so I can eliminate as much friction as possible in the creative process. Number 3, I want aesthetically pleasing desktop storage for my most used items. Number 4, I want my lesser used items to be hidden from sight, because visual clutter is distracting to me when I work. Number 5, I want built-in ambient lighting to prevent eye strain from looking at my monitor too much. Lastly, I want a modular organization system that can be changed and expanded in the future. And obviously, I do not want any cords to be visible.
Oh my God, bro.
And if we're able to hit all of these, I think we'll be able to build a desk that makes me more productive.
A lot has happened since my last video. I graduated college, finishing my undergrad in product design, and just as I was gearing up to start creating videos full-time, my YouTube channel was hacked by scammers and deleted. It was probably the most stressful week of my life, but more about that in a little bit. The core of any good desk is a high-quality tabletop surface, and for this desk, I spent a little bit extra to buy some 3/4-inch maple Europly. What makes Europly almost twice as expensive as regular plywood is that it has a really nice edge grain because it's made up of 7 thin plies of maple veneer. This type of plywood has become so aesthetically desirable that even brands like IKEA are faking it by printing the ply on the plastic edge of their desktops.
What the hell?
While I did spend close to $200 for this one sheet of plywood, I didn't fancy spending twice as much to double the thickness of the tabletop. So to make this desktop look thicker, I cut thin strips and glued them to the perimeter of the tabletop. While this technique worked well, and it resulted in a high-end, chunky desktop, it will present some structural issues later in the build. Now with the desktop done, it was time to get started working on the main feature of the desk, the lifting mechanism that will allow me to hide my entire computer setup with the press of a button. Not only will this lifting compartment house all of my production gear, but it will hopefully solve the atrocious cable management of my old desk. And that's why I'm drilling these large holes, to allow the cables to be routed and completely hidden in this compartment on the back. In my old desk setup, the mic arm is just clamped to the desk's surface, meaning it's always visible. And with the new desk, I wanted to mount it seamlessly inside of the Resin compartment, so I drilled a hole that will let it slot in. The back of the desk is where the cable compartment will be, and in an ideal world, I'd cover it completely. But I know that in the future, I'll need to route new cables from time to time, so I created this back panel that has little windows for me to reach in and make any adjustments. Now let's take a step back here, because I need to figure out how to make this whole thing lift up and down. And I've done a few projects that have lifting mechanisms like this coffee table or this TV lift cabinet.
And to be honest, both of those have their problems. For the coffee table, I rigged 2 linear actuators together, and after using it for a while, it's definitely too loud for my liking. So I thought, why not buy a TV lift? Which I did. The lift's capacity was 170 pounds, which I thought would be enough. But I quickly realized that the desk compartment is gonna be too heavy. It's pushing 200 pounds easily. And the problem is, having one motorized lift in the center, that creates an unhealthy amount of leverage, having all of that weight so far from the center axis. So I quickly returned the TV lift. And to solve this issue, I bought some standing desk hardware. And this is hopefully gonna be our solution to the wobbling issue, because we have twice as much power here, and we have a motorized lift on each side, which is gonna be a whole lot more stable. Let's give this a test. I think this is even quieter than the TV lift that I bought.
Dude.
Now the question is, does it extend tall enough? 49, 23.5 at its minimum height. So if we subtract those two numbers, we get the actual range of motion of the lift. And that's gonna leave us just a little bit of wiggle room. Now I have a slight issue, which is that this entire lift is too wide. I need these legs to fit within the width of the top of this panel here, because I want the lift mechanism to be completely hidden. I think it's time for some modification. I hope these work, because after what I'm about to do, there's no returning these.
I was a bit apprehensive, but in order to see if the standing desk hardware would even work, I had to shorten it so it could fit inside of the compartment. After removing about 8 inches of steel tube, I had to come up with a clever solution to mount it to the plywood. You see, I couldn't just use the included stock mounting brackets because they were way too big to fit within the constraints of the riser box. So I decided to break out the welder and put my amateur welding skills to the test.
The welds aren't the prettiest, but it's gonna hold. That's all that matters.
I drilled a few holes in the steel bars, and these will allow me to use some panhead screws to secure it to the mating plywood surface, which you'll see how this comes together, but first I needed to finish assembling the riser box.
We got the back panel here, and then we have the top shelf for the speakers. So now that we have most of this riser assembly completed, and I've shortened the standing desk hardware, I need to figure out how to combine the two together so that this can actually lift up and down.
In order to get the standing desk hardware to fit into the riser box, I had to cut some holes to allow the legs to have somewhere to slot into. One of my requirements for this desk is to have built-in ambient lighting. Now, you're probably thinking, Miles, why do you need built-in lighting when you could just have a desk lamp? Well, first of all, I want to do everything I can to keep the desktop as clutter-free as possible. And also, when I'm staring at a screen for long periods of time, it's pretty easy to get bad eye strain. One of the ways you can mitigate that is by having some softer ambient lighting nearby your monitor, so there's less contrast, which is why I'll be adding some hidden light strips under the main speaker shelf. And we'll come back to this towards the end of the build, but all I can say is that this was a great decision, and it was really worth the extra effort and prep time. Now, I'm sure some of you can relate to this. With any creative pursuit, friction is inevitable. And sometimes it's that friction that stops you from making things more often. It stops you from starting that new project, and likely more often it stops you from finishing the projects you already have going. The biggest block for me is not having dedicated and well-organized spaces. I have this thing where if my environment is cluttered or messy, it makes me less productive because there's always a part of my brain telling me that I need to get organized before I can get my work done. And I think that's why I'm so fascinated by hidden storage. When I'm able to remove those messes and create systems to stay organized, my brain has no other option but to get to work and lock in. I've also lived in very small apartments over the past 4 years, so it's harder to stay well organized and have dedicated creative spaces. Clutter and disorganization has been a constant for me for the past few years. Trying to balance college academics with creating videos left me really no time to look at my systems critically. And I'd imagine this is probably the same as if you have a full-time job and a creative side hustle. I graduated college 2 months ago, and this is the first video I've uploaded as a full-time YouTuber. But as I hinted in the beginning of the video, this career I've spent the last 10 years building was almost taken from me for good on a random Monday morning a few months ago.
I think I just got hacked. I've tried to log in probably 5 times. Someone has removed my backup email, my backup phone number, and 2-factor authentication. So there are no secondary methods for me to sign in now. This is bad. This is really bad. My YouTube channel's gone. I just went to go and check to see if the hackers had changed anything, and my channel is completely gone. It looks like YouTube must have terminated my channel because the hackers violated the community guidelines. That was 10 years of hard work to get to where I was. I was 5,000 subs away from hitting 500,000. I'm gonna do literally everything I can to get my channel back. At this point, I was kind of crashing out. This account and this community of you guys that has been growing for the last 10 years was gone, just like that. The reason they deleted my channel was because the content that the hackers live streamed while they had the channel went against their community guidelines. So if I could just get YouTube to realize it was the hackers who did this, not me, I thought I still had a chance of recovering my channel. So the first thing I did was submit a standard appeal of termination. Great, YouTube's gonna look at this and realize it wasn't me who violated their community guidelines. Nope, not so easy. YouTube had decided to not reinstate my channel. If only I could just get in contact with a real human who works at YouTube. So I did the next logical step and I posted an Instagram reel talking about what happened. And this is the part that warms my heart because the community responded and my creator friends texted me seeing if there's any ways that they could help. And by some stroke of luck, some of my followers work at Google and YouTube and they reached out to me and were able to help escalate the case. You guys are the best. Fast forward a couple days and many email threads later, I was able to recover my Google account. And then after undergoing a manual review of this hijacking case, my YouTube channel was back up. And I think the most miraculous part of this all is that the hackers didn't delete any of my videos. So after my channel got hacked and this whole situation was under control, I realized just how much my personal information is out there. This was easily the most stressful week of my life. I really need to find a solution to this because I certainly don't want this nightmare of a situation to happen again.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no.
And this is where Incogni, the sponsor of this video, comes in handy. There are these data brokers out here who are collecting all of your personal information. Your phone number, your email, your home address, even your social security number. And then they sell this information to advertisers, stalkers, and criminals. And that's how scammers get a hold of your information. And this is the type of information that people use to take over your accounts, which can lead to money loss or even your Google account and entire career getting hijacked like me. So instead of trying to deal with the aftermath like I had to do, it makes more sense just to make yourself harder to find in the first place. And that's what Incogni does. It scans the internet to find where your personal data is exposed, and it automatically reaches out to those sites and requests they remove it. And they handle all of the follow-ups as well. With their exposure scanner, you can see where exactly your private info is showing up and choose exactly what gets removed. Because if someone can't find your information, they can't use it against you. So if you want help removing your personal data, use the code MAKEWITHMILES at the link below to get 60% off an annual plan. That's incogni.com/makewithmiles. It takes about 2 minutes to set up, and then it just runs automatically in the background. Thank you, Incogni, for sponsoring this video and for helping me get a handle of my online security.
I'm so grateful for this community having my back through that whole experience, and for everyone at YouTube who helped me recover my channel. Making these videos full-time has been a dream of mine since I was 12, and I'm so grateful that I still get to do this after having that almost be taken away from me.
So with the Resin compartment mostly done, it's time to turn our attention back to the desktop itself. I glued these extra strips of plywood all the way around the perimeter to create the illusion that this desktop is thicker. And I thought that doubling up the plywood around the edges would stiffen it up considerably, but the truth is that the desktop still bows in the center when I press on it. And the last thing I want is to be sitting at the desk and for it to flex in the center. That does not communicate high quality furniture. And we want this desk to be absolutely top tier, so I'm not gonna let that slide.
We can do better. We could be chasing dreams. We know what's right, and we know how it feels. Yeah, we can do better. We can make a change for real. Yeah, we can do better. We can be facing fears. We know what's up, and we know how to get there.
Now, it's time to start thinking about the legs of this desk. Because the part that lifts up is so wide, it doesn't leave me with much room on either side to have a traditional set of drawers. So we're confined to this very narrow column form. Now, in thinking of how I can use the space most efficiently, I went back to my list of desk requirements. One of them being, I want storage for my music production tools, which if I'm being honest, don't get used that often. And this is the perfect format to have vertical storage in a very narrow compartment. Here's the game plan. Each leg of the desk is going to be a 6-inch wide box, and I want to have vertical storage that slides out of each box. The right leg will store my music production tools, and the left leg is going to be dedicated to extra camera gear and art supplies. And I'm really thinking about this in terms of prioritization. Whichever tools I use the most will get storage on top of the desk, and the ones that I use less frequently will get hidden away in the legs.
I think vertical storage is vastly underutilized, and I want to treat this as an experiment to see whether it's actually practical long term. There's so many possibilities for modular vertical storage, which is one of my requirements for this desk. I want a flexible organization system that can shift to my needs in the future. I installed these heavy-duty soft close drawer slides to the inside of the cabinet face, and I built the drawer box around them.
Okay, let's do a little setup here. I want to see how things are shaping up. The top. Immediately we have one issue, which is that the metal beam underneath is making it so that this is not sitting flat on the legs. So we need to cut some sort of... Come on, come on. Boom. I'm glad that worked out. But we have a more important design problem to solve, which is going to directly impact how smoothly my lifting feature works. The problem is that right now the top surface of the lift is considerably lower than the regular surface of the desk. This needs to be raised up about 4 inches. You're probably wondering, why can't I just set the custom height of the standing desk hardware to 4 inches higher? The reason I can't do that is because I need all 25 inches of travel from the absolute lowest that the desk goes to the absolute highest. Right now it's at its lowest setting. Even at the desk's highest setting, it's still about 4 inches too low. We're making new legs for the TV lift. So now we got to take these legs off and replace them with the spacer boxes, and that'll lift the entire mechanism up about 4 inches. These are not tightened very well. I guess I am the one who assembled this in the first place. Now we need this exact hole pattern, so I'm going to create a little template here. Now we can just peel that off. We'll have an exact transfer of these holes. Where the f did I put the Allen wrench? Dude, I swear things just start disappearing. Allen wrench, where are you? Where did it go? I am sweating out here. My boy Allen wrench is back. He was hiding in my pocket this whole time. I swear when it's this hot out, a 5-minute task turns into like a 20-minute task. Oh my God, okay.
With that issue solved, I finished the drawer boxes with some wipe-on poly and started cutting out some 1/2-inch plywood panels for the vertical storage.
And so now this board can go inside of here, and we're gonna attach it to the drawer slides. Really, my ultimate goal with this desk is to have as much blank surfaces as possible that I can later customize. I know what I'm gonna put on one of these drawers, but this one I have yet to decide, which is a very freeing feeling creatively, because I can leave part of this blank and use it to organize stuff in the future. I've never been more excited about organization. Now, in order for this large blank surface to not be a complete waste, I'm gonna be attaching some IKEA pegboard. There's a surprising amount of free 3D printing files online for this IKEA Scatus pegboard.
Score these.
And I'm gonna be taking full advantage of that to make this the most organized desk possible.
Now we need to attach this drawer face to this panel. But the tricky part is that we only have 1/2 inch of real estate to attach this drawer face to. So my solution are these 3D printed angled brackets. It's going to strengthen this joint and it's going to give us more area to attach the drawer face to. I'm going to attach these Gridfinity wall mounts to the inside of this drawer. And that's going to allow us to customize all of the storage in here with these tiny containers.
These Gridfinity bins will hold things like my SD cards, pens, hard drives, and other desk-related items. I left the bottom portion of this drawer completely free so that I can add stuff later. After modeling and printing these custom holders for my keyboard and MIDI drum pad, I installed them to the other drawer box, and my leg organization was done.
With all the hidden storage fully built for the items that I use less often, it was time to get serious. Really serious, in fact, because it was time to tackle the most important and visually striking part of this build. If I get this wrong, it's not going to be great. It was time to create the ultimate visible storage solution for my most used tools, or MUI. Craig Hill scissors, tiny knife, maker knife, tiny ruler, Blackwing pencil, mechanical pencil, holy trinity of microns, and pencil sharpener. Think mini museum display for your most used tools.
After spending hours perfectly measuring every single item and 3D modeling a custom tray, I wanted to 3D print it.
But not just any old 3D print. You see, I want these tool trays to be backlit, which means they need to be semi-transparent.
Regular nozzle 3D printing is notoriously bad at printing transparent plastics. So when Formlabs reached out and asked if I wanted to try one of the resin printers, I said absolutely. Up until now, I've been hesitant and a bit nervous to get into resin printing. And even though my college had one, I never learned how to use it. Nothing like having a tangible need for a tool to finally figure out how to use it.
This right here is my new resin printer from Formlabs. Check this out, check this out. Dude, this thing is a beast. This is probably the biggest resin printer I've ever seen. I know there's definitely bigger ones, but those are probably like 100 grand. Man, all of these little levers and everything are well made. It just feels like a very well thought out experience here.
Okay. Oh, that looks really good.
Learning how to resin print was much easier than I expected with the Form 4L. And while Formlabs did gift this machine to me, they're not paying me to say this. Their printers are surprisingly intuitive to use, and I was able to get a great looking clear 3D print on my first try. The 4L is quite large, and honestly for most people, their smaller Form 4 will get the job done, but it was quite a lot of fun to be able to print the full tool trays all in one piece.
That looks good. Okay.
After using the wash station to rinse the uncured resin off the print surface, I threw it in the cure station, which uses UV light to harden the print. And as I watched the prints finish curing, I was getting eager to see if I'd model things correctly.
Okay, I hope that these fit. Oh, that's a pretty much perfect fit. Oh no. Okay, it fits right here, but it's just hitting on the end right here. Okay, I hope this one fits. This one doesn't fit either. We have some slight modifications to do. The thing about resin printing is that you can carve into the resin because it's completely solid. Much better. Now for the scissors. Nice. Now they all fit. That is satisfying.
Okay, we're gonna put this one down. This one.
If it comes to this, I know we'll have had more than most. It's so in a dream that I have had. We departed and did what we had started, and I pray it doesn't come to that. If it does, thanks for the love we had. Live well, you reap what you sow. The future is bright if we can ebb with the flow. You're something, I'm nothing. We were everything, anything to save me from the goodness she gave me. Live well, you reap what you sow. The future.
I've been really interested in Shushugiban technique lately. That's where you burn the piece of wood and then you scrape off with a wire brush so that the lignin of the wood is raised, and then you get this really cool blackened texture. I did just spend like 45 minutes sanding and shaping this, so I hope this is not a waste.
This was my first time attempting Shushugiban, and it takes a bit of trust to decide that you're just gonna torch a part of your project that you spent a long time carving, but I felt like it unlocked a new skill for future projects. Because softer woods have a greater variation between the hardness of the lignin and the rest of the wood substance, the ridges in the wood you get are quite pronounced. I think this makes for a visually interesting knob design. There's something so satisfying about this amorphous shape to me. About a year ago, I designed and sewed this wax canvas jacket, and part of that was designing these sandblasted aluminum buttons, and that's what I modeled the shape of this knob after. I dyed it black again with India ink, and after polishing it smooth, I installed the knob on the potentiometer with epoxy. The final step to completing the desktop storage unit was to wire in some warm LED strips. We'll get back to the lighting reveal in a second, but before I could plug everything in, I needed to begin the arduous process of untangling my old desk setup.
Brother, what's that, brother?
To make room for what I've built. With the old setup disassembled, the first step was attaching the standing desk legs to the riser box. My time to shine with cable management was finally here, and although it wasn't the sexiest part of the build, I knew that if I kept things well organized from the jump, it would save me a lot of headaches in the future. I finally got to install my studio monitor speakers, which was quite satisfying. Something I didn't tell you is that I designed this entire desk around achieving proper speaker placement. The speakers should form an equilateral listening triangle with your ears for proper bass and treble mixing. Audio nerd stuff aside, I installed the back panel. And remember when I cut the groove for the ambient lighting? Well, it was finally time to install that warm colored LED strip under the speaker shelf. Something that I'm stealing from Scott Yuhan's desk setup is this little MagSafe phone charger, which allows me to have my phone mounted below my monitor in standby mode. Now, the very last thing I had to do to complete this setup was connecting the mic and speakers together with my audio interface. So I modeled this skeletal holder for my interface, which allows it to mount underneath the speaker shelf as well. For those who aren't into audio recording, an interface is basically an additional piece of gear needed that goes between your mic and your computer, and it allows you to adjust the audio levels. And it also lets your professional speakers or studio monitors play sound from your computer. You can really get as technical or as simple as you want with video and audio production, and as much as it seems like I have things figured out, I'm still very much on the beginner side of things. As I promised, the time has finally come to set up the desktop storage and turn all the lights on for the first time. I am quite stoked with how this setup turned out. And man, there's really something to having a well-organized desk. Over the last few weeks, I've been so much more productive, and it seems like building this desk has eliminated most of the friction with my old desk. For my next few projects, I know I want to take a similar approach. How can I build systems that remove some friction that we experience in life? I'm on a mission to optimize life through design and building, and thank you for following along. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up. It helps YouTube send this to new people. And if you want to see the next installment of the Tiny Apartment series, hit the subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Boy.